Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Method. This is where I'll be talking about DMing slash GMing advice, conversations on tabletop RPGs, sometimes occasionally going into board games, card games, maybe even video games and comics, just, whatever. These are all hobbies and interests of mine, but mostly we'll be talking about role playing games. I will probably occasionally be putting on my own podcast of my own games on here. Hopefully, once I get the proper podcasting mic for doing that, and then I'll probably put Roll 20 Hangout, Google Hangout games on here as well. Today we're going to be. This is the first episode, by the way, and I'm super excited about trying this out. Today we're going to be talking about the new Dungeon Master's Guide. Now I didn't get a chance to do a review on the Player's Handbook and Monster Manual because I wasn't ready to do this quite yet. But and there's tons of great reviews out there for those two products. So search the internet, you'll find some great reviews. But today we're going to be focusing on the Dungeon Master's Guide. First off, as much as I love it, don't get me wrong, I still have cons about it. So we're going to go through a pros and cons type method of looking at this. But first we'll start with a brief overview of the design of the book. So the book is split into three parts. The first part being world building slash overarching game design. Okay, creating your religions and your geography and your worlds and stuff like that. That falls under part one. This is really useful for new DMs. Haven't played D&D in the past. Maybe you're coming from video games the first time, games like World of Warcraft or something like that. And that section mainly applies to them. But there is a huge section on planes that I absolutely love, and I'll get to that later when I get to pros and cons. Part two is your crunchier, meatier bits to the game itself and DMing. It's got traps, it's got your magic items, stuff like that. It's also got some helpful tips for running the game and how the game plays. Part three is called the Dungeon Master's Toolkit, and this is by far my favorite part because it reminds me kind of almost of the Anarchicana back in the third edition days. But a lot of material here, good stuff, and like I said, we'll talk about that more later. Jumping to we'll start with the cons actually, because I'd like to get them out of the way, and a lot of people would like to know my complaints. First off, we'll say I think this is a complaint almost everybody has with the new D&D books in general. And if they could have changed the layout after the first one, I'm sure they would have. If they didn't want them all to be symmetrical, but the biggest complaint is the page numbers are frankly nearly impossible to read in a low light environment. Now, most people don't play in super low light environments, but as you can see, the lighting is not super great where I'm at. It's because I'm in a loft with one light, and yeah, so it kind of sucks. But the lighting is not so hot, so it makes it terribly difficult to read the page numbers at the bottom of the page. This may seem like, oh, this is just a minor complaint, but no, it's a big deal. The print is really, really small, and it's dark brown on a light brown parchment design, and that is just not cool, guys. Not cool. So that is one of my biggest complaints. My second is just the general layout. This part one, two, three thing is it works in design, but really it's just not the way I think a Dungeon Master Guide should be laid out. I imagine something more laid out closer to like a player's handbook, where it's got the crunchy meteor bits at the front, so that players can know, so DMs can know how to run the game first, and then the world building, and then the tool GM school kit should be at the back. I know it seems like a little bit of a kind of a big thing to kind of critique over, but it makes it harder to navigate a book when it doesn't match up to the way you'd expect it to be designed. I'm going to be marking a lot of tabs in mine because I can't I keep on the wrong pages. But we'll jump to the pros. Okay, so first off, Wizards of the Coast talked a lot about their modular design in this new edition of D&D, and we really didn't get a chance to see that as much with the Player's Handbook, but now we get a chance to. Okay, so Player's Handbooks are not usually designed that way. The DMG, though, he's the one that controls what modules come into the game, what kind of optional rules he's going to use, and what kind of new weapons he's going to incorporate, or even if he's going to use things like Madness for Ravenloft, or Honor for Oriental Adventures, or something like that. These are all in there, and they even have alternate systems that can replace inspiration, like hero points and plot points, and even a DM-less option, which I think is great. They included it. It's not a very good DM-less option, but it's still there, and that's great. But But that's one of my favorite parts of the design of this book. And I'll get to my second favorite part: 40 pages on planes alone. Now, don't get me wrong, there's world building information there, but the planes is what I always look for because I like to read, see what they'll add, see what they'll talk about now. They include the settlements on the Outlands. Now they talk about those. They talk more in detail about the different planes and their relationships to each other. And this is just a good read, especially if you were thinking about converting, say, Planescape type stuff, but you wanted new material that you could easily draw to out of a book instead of just getting on Planeswalker.com or something. So this is a good book for it. And plus, there's new design approach in there too, and the way the planes are laid out a little bit different, not a whole lot. And then I love the, and on third pro is I love the crunchy bits in part two. I feel like they really hit the mark. Traps, I love the way traps are designed now. I think they've now finally figured out how to make hit points really seem like an abstraction without ability score drains and stuff like that, or at least not that I've noticed. And throwing all that stuff into hit points, this makes it so much better to understand hit points as an abstraction because they're actually making them an abstraction. Before they call them an abstraction, and then it'd still be only what goes down when you get hit. So now they're finally using them to represent things like poison and stuff like that, and that's great. That's awesome. Kudos. And also love the magic items, the way they're set up in this edition. Very good. I love that a lot of the items too. Excuse me, are more balanced in their design. Like say the items that increases your ability scores, they increase it to a certain amount, and that's it. If you're over that, you gain no benefit. Stuff like that. There are some, of course, that add a modifier to your current strength or war dexterity or whatever, but there are still others that are set up to increase your maximum ability score, which I like that approach. Overall, these magic items are great, and it gives you good examples of how to make your own. Also, it gives you great examples for making your own monsters and quickly come up with monsters on the fly. Maybe how you could maybe level a monster up. I mean, it's not an exact wording of how to do that, but it gives you good guidelines or say what's the AC of this level of monster, what's the hit point range of this level of the monster, and then you can compare that to the other version. And then you could tweak it, and so there's a lot of good stuff here, and I highly recommend this book. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully, come back and see more of my videos. I should be doing one about every 2 weeks. Hopefully, we'll see. And you can follow me on Twitter when I get that Twitter account opened. It should be open not long after this is released. Roll Method on Twitter, and also just subscribe to the channel. And see you guys later.